Everybody has stories. Stories of laughter, and of pain, and of sadness, and of joy. And I suppose I feel, like most people, that my personal story is quite intricate. And so, to unravel all the details, I decided that it was time to excavate. And so, I trudged up into my attic, and I uncovered some of my journals from my prolific and perpetually growing journal collection. And so I thought I'd begin today with this fascinating artifact. So this is my journal from when I was about 17. It's got a lovely tangerine cover and a picture of me as a 6-year-old with a quote that I wrote in my much later years that reads, "Few little things drive me insane, teenage women and free cocaine." And it's filled with some wonderful, uplifting quotes like, "Hopeless," and "We're just two lost souls swimming in a fish bowl year after year," and "Saturnin," which for those of you who don't know means lead poisoning or severe depression. And there's a naked montage of Alanis Morissette on the back cover. So anyway, I'll begin today with a reading. Sad, upset, depressed, lonely, cold, gloomy, icy, hollow, colorless, dull, unhappy, unhappiness, cheerlessness, disconsolateness. And so, for whatever reason, at 17, I decided to open up my thesaurus and copy down every single synonym for sad. There's a lot of them. So at 17, I was obviously very sad. I was filled with prostration and vaporishness. And so in order to see how I got here, we have to go back to the early 2000s when I was 10. This is a great journal. It's got a picture of a flower and a watermelon and a sun and a strawberry and my name, the top left-hand corner, Bronte, with my pseudonym in parentheses, Pink Chick, and my favorite bit, Will, I love Will T, I love Will T, Will, I love Will T. God, I loved Will T. What a dream vote. So I had a very happy, if not privileged childhood, and I was a very normal, if not overachieving child. Today at school, Mrs. Loudon told me I could be the first female Prime Minister of Australia. Thanks, Julie Gillard. And so what this diary here really illustrates is why things were so hard for me later on. And that's because mental illness simply didn't happen to someone like that. This is my journal from early high school. It's lovely mauve and white pinstripe with flirty girls written all over the cover and lovely ladies wearing hats and a lovely lady staring into a mirror on the back that reads, "Stylin' and ready to go." And you know what? I totally was. But I did find the beginning of high school particularly difficult. I was diverging from the direction that most people thought I would travel in. I was incredibly angry and sad. I started drinking and I started self-harming. And at 14, I had my first suicide attempt. And that is where this story really begins. Can you sense the change? The diaries of Bronte, no smiling allowed. And there's a My Chemical Romance sticker on the front cover because they were like a really like hardcore band, man. And like a picture of like a cigarette because like I was just like heaps hardcore, bro. Heaps hardcore. 14 was, as my mother says, where it all started. At 14, I had my first taste of marijuana. And I found it simply exhilarating. And I suppose, indulging in retrospect, that's because I suppose I found it to be some kind of escape. But all of a sudden it seemed as though I was perpetually stoned, and I was smoking 3 to 6 times a day, every day. And for someone who has a prominent predisposition for mental illness, that was quite a salient problem. But, you know, I guess if you're kind of doing that many drugs, probably doing other stuff as well. So I was taking a lot of ecstasy and would eventually start taking speed and Valium and cocaine and a little bit of meth as well. I would love to read some of the stuff I have in here relating to that, but I can barely read my own handwriting. And the stuff I can read is utterly incoherent anyway, so I wouldn't even fucking bother. At 14, I fell in love with my best friend, who also happened to be a girl. And I was like, man, what? What do I do? What do I do? I'd like quite a few boyfriends before. I was meant to say heaps of boyfriends before. So it was quite a shock, and we didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to do, so we kept it secret for 2 years, and we'd go out for 4. And of course, I have a lot of painful lesbian love poetry written in here, but I will save myself and you all from such explicit sexual content. So at this stage, I'm on and off all sorts of different medications for ADHD and depression, and I'm getting into a lot of trouble at school. I'm not really doing my work. I've started seeing a psychologist, but all of a sudden I do find myself with this amazing support network. As I said, my psychologist and teachers and my family. But I was hidden beneath some semblance of a veneer, and I wasn't really divulging anything about what was really going on. This next journal is a lovely egg yellow, and it says insanities and inanities written all over it, which I suppose sums up my life at this stage. So anyway, I'm almost 17, and I'm starting to get better. Making decisions, I'm like, yeah man, I'm gonna quit drugs. Like, yeah man, I'm gonna get school leader. Like, yeah man, I'm gonna start the school paper. And I was feeling absolutely fabulous. And one day, a friend comes up to me in the corridor. She looked at me straight in the eye, and she said, Bronte, are you still using drugs? And I looked back at her and I said, no, but I'm stoned now. And I suppose what I was really trying to do is make all these big decisions all by myself. But man, I could totally do it. Which brings us back to this lovely tangerine dream, I suppose you could say. I'm happy, really fucking happy. I have a secret. I will tell no one. But because I'm heaps bad at keeping secrets, I might as well tell you. So for the past couple of months, I had been speaking or communicating with Michael Hutchence. For those of you who don't know, he's the lead singer of INXS, who died when I was 5. And that's why I decided to play Suicide Blonde as I walked onto the stage, which perhaps is in pretty bad taste, like most things I do. But obviously, I was psychotic. And psychosis denotes certain symptoms that can be articulated into 2 main parts. You've got delusions and hallucinations. And delusions are thoughts and beliefs that aren't congruent with the reality that most people share. And hallucinations are based on the senses. So you're seeing, touching, tasting, hearing, smelling, yes, things that other people simply can't. And so at this stage, I was delusional, and I honestly believed that the way the wind blew, the way a curtain moved, the way music sounded, things on the ground, were actually special messages to me from Michael Hutchence. Like I said, I'm heaps bad at keeping secrets, so I found myself sitting in an office one day talking to a teacher, and I was like, you know when you can talk to ghosts and they talk back? And he was just like, and he shipped me off to see the school psychologist, who was just like, he then shipped me off to see an external psychiatrist, who luckily could control her facial expressions. And she diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder that's characterized by 2 poles. So you've got severe depression and intense elevation, and mainly normal periods in between. And severe depression is basically characterized by low energy. Sometimes you literally can't get out of bed. You withdraw socially, you're either eating too much or not eating at all, and your thoughts can be quite dark and morbid and eventually can become suicidal. And the elevated periods, or mania, is the inverse. So you're high energy, and like you can't stop moving, like you can't stop talking, and like got all these like big ideas and plans, and I just realized I'm describing what I'm doing now, but I'm not manic. And sometimes you can be really angry, but you just totally, and really everyone else just finds you really annoying, which I hope you don't right now. But when I received that diagnosis, it made a whole lot of sense, and I really ascertained a lot of comfort from that diagnosis. This next journal here is just plain black, which I suppose really sums up the elegance and refinement that I really didn't have. But sometime after all that intense elevation and self-belief shattered, and just before I started my last year of school, I had my second suicide attempt. Room 13, bed 17. If there is a God, he has bipolar. And my last, you can laugh if you want, it's okay. It's a sad bit, whatever. And that last sort of turbulent year of high school embraced all these erratic moods and disintegration of most of my friendships and a relationship with my girlfriend that had completely soured and become emotionally abusive. And my psychotic symptoms were getting worse. And I remember this one night, just so vividly, laying back in my head with this incessant, laying back in my bed? Did I say in my head? So psychotic. Laying back in my bed with just this incessant chattering going on. I was hearing voices. I'm 17 and I have to sleep with the light on. And all of this, from a girl who was once so bright and adventurous, and now all this pain and self-harm and escapism were just taking on so many faces and forms. This next journal here is a lovely plain red leather with a picture of a cloud that says sheep without legs pointing to it, which I think is a particularly accurate description of a cloud. Not crazy. And there's a picture of a cat playing a keyboard from a Nick Cave exhibition, and I don't think he could have realized at that time how uncool cats with keyboards were. But I thought they were cool because I was so psychotic. Anyway, so I finished school, and I'm starting to make a lot of positive changes, but I still have a really long way to go. In March of 2010, I broke up with my girlfriend. And shortly after, I met a boy, and we fell in love. And I will proclaim that the only worse thing than having to come out as gay is having to come out as not gay afterwards. That ain't fun. And in November of 2010, when I was 19, I had my last ever taste of drugs. You can clap if you want, it's okay, don't. No, don't. Cute. So this next journal is just plain black, except it's got a little yellow button. And now is the time to point out that, especially when you line these all up chronologically, even my journals have bipolar. So you've got like colourful black, colourful black, colourful black. So after a lot of work and persevering through these mercurial and capricious moods and through all these horrifying psychoses, I finally emerged myself again. And like a lot of mad people, I have a burning inclination to become a psychiatrist, which, as what happens to most mad people, soon evaporated. Anyway, I enroll in uni, and I get in, and that first semester I get distinctions and high distinctions. I've got this great boyfriend, and I go traveling, but because it's my life, I had another episode. This next journal here is plain black. It's got a picture of a baby doll's arm back cover and a lovely lingerie-clad woman. I haven't completely gone off chicks, I guess. But this next episode, I really thought I knew what pain was, but I had absolutely no idea. And for 6 months, I didn't leave my house, except for like this really heavy, dreary walk down the hill to buy cigarettes every day. But it was really, really hard. I feel suffocated by life and death and feel I can choose neither one. And lucky me, I get to check myself into a private psychiatric clinic. But that was actually one of the best decisions I've ever made. And while I'm in there, for the first time in all these years, my medication stabilizes. And it's like I can breathe again. And also while I'm in there, I see a psychotic specialist. Fuck, I keep doing that. A specialist in psychosis. She may be psychotic, I'm really not sure. But she confirms what a lot of people have been thinking for a while, which was that my psychotic experiences were actually drug-induced. And as long as I continued to refrain from drugs, I'd be fine in that respect. Which is all really good, except a couple of days later, I was in her office and she said, Bronte, we're not sure if you're psychotic or just have a really good imagination. Thanks a lot. And then she said, you know, Bronte, it really doesn't matter. I was like, yeah, no, I guess not. And also while I'm in there, I get leave to see this bunch of prominent atheists. And as I'm leaving out the door, I struck up a conversation with a nurse. And she said, oh, you must be an atheist. And I said, yes, but I've spoken to God. Anyway, I get out of hospital. And this last journal here is just this plain brown leather with wonderful creamy pages, and it represents the past year and a half of my life. And now, because I'm exercising and eating well and sleeping well, and most importantly, that I got really high-quality professional help at a young age, I'm now managing my illness. And of course, because of the contours of this speech, I haven't been able to describe in detail my life or even my illness. But I think all you really need to know about my life, and this is a take-home message, that my life is simply a string of hilariously painful anecdotes. A couple of days ago, I was on the couch with my dad, and I said, God, Dad, it feels so good to be normal. And I don't know what my pen will unfold in the rest of this journal, but I certainly fucking hope it involves me being normal. Thank you.